Hi, everyone. Hope that your day is going well. My name is Lindsay. I'm part of the wildlife team here at the High Desert Museum. I do have a very lovely guest to share with you. He's a great horned owl. So being a great horned owl, he can be found almost all across North America. They're one of the most common owl species that you will see, although you don't always see them because they are a nocturnal owl. They are awake during the nighttime. And his little horns, or we call them plumicorns, help him blend in. That way, if he's up in a tree, he sticks those little plumicorns, those little horns up in the air, and he looks like a tree. If he were up right against a tree, he'd be pretty hard to see because he doesn't have a round head with those little horns up. He looks like he has branches sticking out of his head. And that is how he camouflages into the environment and that his little prey items don't see him. So he can hide really well that way. He will just sit in a tree and wait for a prey item to come by him. He has very good hearing, so he can see it and he can hear it, and then he will just go and ambush his prey item. He has incredibly strong feet. If you can see his feet, maybe I'll try to get him a little bit closer to the camera. If you can see those feet, they are completely covered with feathers. He has feathers all the way from the top of his head down to his toes, and that makes him incredibly quiet. He is a silent flyer, so if he is awake during the night, everything is pretty quiet. We don't hear much. His amazing ears can hear prey items, and then he can silently go and pluck up maybe a mouse or a rabbit. His prey items don't hear him coming, so it makes him a very effective predator. And he can be found almost all across North America, so he can be found in a lot of different habitats. He can be found in the middle of a forest, and he can be found close to cities. You might have them in your neighborhood if there are big trees in your neighborhood. And a good way to be able to tell they are there is they have a big hooting sound. They are a traditional hoot owl, and so they can hoot and communicate with each other. Sometimes it's a territorial hoot. Sometimes it's a mom communicating with her babies, but they make all sorts of noises. And they also have casts or owl pellets. So if you find little pellets on the ground, they are made up of fur and feathers and bones. That means you might have an owl nearby or maybe another raptor. So he will swallow his prey items, everything, even the fur and the fuzzy parts that we don't usually think about them eating. And then whatever he doesn't want to digest, whatever he doesn't want to eat, he will just kind of cough back up and it will be in the form of a pellet. So those pellets are really cool, and we can find out what owls eat based on what is in their pellets. So they're pretty useful. Now this owl is non-releasable, and that is because he was picked up on the ground when he was a baby. Someone thought his parents had abandoned him in the wild, and so they picked him up and they took care of him for a little bit. But once you take care of a baby animal, especially a baby raptor like this bird, they often cannot go back into the wild. So for that reason, he is here for the rest of his life. He doesn't really realize that he's a great horned owl because he has been imprinted on humans. So he either thinks he's a tiny human on my glove, maybe he thinks all of us are humongous birds. I don't really know what he's thinking, but he does not know that he is a great horned owl. He does not realize what he is capable of. He doesn't even quite know how to hoot. Occasionally he will hoot like a grown-up great horned owl would, but it scares him a little bit. He doesn't know where that sound is coming from or why he is making it. So it's a good message to send with everybody is if you care, leave it there. A lot of baby birds are going to be on the ground in the next coming weeks. So if you ever do see a baby bird on the ground, if you care, leave it there. And that is just best practice for all things because parent birds let their babies spend time on the ground. It is completely normal for babies to be spending time on the ground, hopping around, and they're kind of white and fluffy. They look pretty helpless. But their parents are usually nearby, and they usually are still feeding their babies and protecting them. But if you don't see the parents, they might just be out hunting or taking care of themselves, maybe trying to get their babies back into the nest, something like that. So it's best practice to just leave everything in the wild. If you are sure something has been abandoned, then you can call maybe the Department of Fish and Wildlife or a rehab group to try to get that baby back into the wild, because once they are taken care of by humans, he has seen humans as his caretakers. He doesn't realize that he is a baby great horned owl. And this goes for all baby animals. So just try to keep everything in the wild. That way we can have as many wild animals as possible. We'll have less in captivity. Does that sound good? I can see a few of you. Yeah? Awesome. Well, being a great horned owl, they are found everywhere. So if you do see evidence of them, you can probably try to get pictures of them, but try to keep your distance since they are fledging the nest right now. We don't want to scare any parents away or scare any babies out of the nests. They do look pretty helpless. They're white and fluffy, so you can tell the babies apart from the parents. The parents will look like this guy does, and when they're babies, they're white and fluffy. Sometimes they're brown and fluffy, and they will have a little scream that they give, a little call, and it won't quite be a hoot. So that's how you can find the babies with the parents. Yeah, awesome. If you guys have any questions, you can feel free to type them in the chat, or I don't know if we're doing voices, but if you have questions, I can try to answer them as well.
Right now, everyone is muted, but if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat. I think we kind of missed our introduction a little, so I'm just gonna pop in real quick after I admit this person. So hi, my name's Jennifer. I'm the children's librarian, and I'm here with Kelsey and Lexi from the High Desert Museum. We are giving away a pass for a family of 4 to visit the High Desert Museum, so please stay until the end of the presentation for that giveaway. All right, does anyone have any questions?
No one's curious what his favorite food is? Or how big he can get? Yeah. This owl really likes mice. That might be his favorite. Since he can't talk, we don't really know what his very favorite food would be, but he really likes mice. So we give him mice as little treats. If he does something really special, like today he's giving this program, so he just ate 2 mice right before we came out.
What's his favorite activity to do?
Probably just sit in the weathering yard outside. If it's not too hot, he does like to be in the sun a little bit, and he likes to eat a lot. How far can owls turn their head around? So it depends on the owl species. Upwards of 200 degrees either direction. So not quite all the way around, but pretty close. Yeah. How much does he weigh? He weighs about 1.5 pounds. Not very much. Birds, raptors, they have more weight in feathers than they do in bone. So his bones are porous, kind of like a sponge. Sponges have holes in them and they look like they're kind of hollow. That's what his bones are like inside of his body. So they're pretty light. If he weighs too much, he can't get himself off of the ground to fly.
How old is he?
This owl is about 4 years old, so he is an adult. This is his adult plumage, his adult feathers. This is what an adult great horned owl looks like.
Does anyone else have any other questions? It's okay if you guys don't.
Yeah, it's okay if you don't. If you do, you can type it in the chat and then maybe somebody else can get to it later. Or I think they might have a little bit of a presentation.
We'll have plenty of time to answer questions this week.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys.
All right. Bye to our owl friend.
Awesome. Thank you. Lindsay was helping us. Our wildlife staff member's name is Lindsay, and she was handling our great horned owl today. I am going to share my screen for a little presentation about owls that we have prepared for you all. Let's see. It will let me share. There we go. Come on. Alrighty. I'm gonna see if I can get this flipped the way I want to. Maybe. My laptop is moving in slow motion. Alrighty. I can see a couple of us. If you can see this presentation okay, go ahead and give me a quick thumbs up. Can you see this presentation? Awesome. Alrighty. So we at the High Desert Museum have joined you today to chat about owls, just like the owl we just saw on a glove. That owl was a great horned owl, just like the one we see in this image right here. I wanted to see, give me a thumbs up if you've ever seen an owl like the one we just saw. Maybe you saw it at a zoo, maybe you saw it here at the museum, maybe you've seen one in the wild. Awesome. And then one last question, give me a thumbs up if you've ever been to the High Desert Museum. Awesome, that's good to see, excellent. Well, welcome. We're going to give you a little glimpse into one of the amazing animals we have here. To get us started, let's see if my PowerPoint will let me click to the next slide. There we go. I wanted to talk about real quick about owls' habitats. Think to yourself, have you heard that word before? Habitat. Habitat is a word we use to describe the surroundings of an animal where it lives. So for example, in these images, these are some pretty good examples of where an owl might live. Have you seen places that look like this? Maybe around where you live, maybe when you're on a hike, on a walk, maybe when you're driving, you've seen a place like this. These are some pretty good examples of where an owl might live. Now we're going to think about it for a minute. We see lots of trees, lots of forest area, not a lot of buildings. Why do you think an owl might live in a place like this? What might be available to an owl if they're living in a place like this? The first thing that comes to my mind is food. In a place that looks like one of these places in a photo, there is tons of food that an owl might have access to. So now that we're talking about an owl's food, let's see if we can brainstorm some things that an owl eats. What do you think an owl eats? Lindsay talked about it for a little bit with our great horned owl on a glove. I'm going to go to our next slide to talk about what an owl might eat. Oh goodness, come on PowerPoint. There we go. Can everyone see these okay? Have you seen some animals that look like these? Yeah, these are excellent examples of what an owl might eat. So these pictures that we're looking at right now are examples of some owls' prey or the things that they might eat or hunt for. We have this first picture is a vole, and then a mouse, and a frog, and a lizard. And this bird here in the middle, that's kind of in the bottom row, is a starling. A starling is a type of bird we have here in Oregon, but it is super invasive. Here at the museum, we use starling to feed a lot of our animals because there's so many of them and we really don't want them in Oregon because they're out competing other species in Oregon, which means they're taking up all the resources that our natural animals are trying to use. So we try feeding starling to a lot of our animals here at the museum, which includes our owls. Another thing we feed our animals here at the museum is a quail, just like the quail you see down here in the bottom of the screen. So a lot of these critters, when you think about these critters out in the wild, what time of day do you think that they're awake? Or I shouldn't say what time of day, but when do you think they're awake? Kind of a tricky question. A lot of these animals, like our mice, our rodents, are awake during the nighttime, which goes to our next slide. Owls. What time do you think owls are awake? Owls are awake during the nighttime, and we have a fancy word to describe that. We use the word nocturnal to describe animals that are awake at nighttime. And that is when our owls are hunting for lots of critters like those rodents, those amphibians, those reptiles, the small birds. And since we know that our animals are, or our owls are hunting at nighttime, they probably need some parts of their body that help them do that, right? So our owls, they have things called adaptations. Maybe you've heard that word before, adaptation. An adaptation is something an animal has that helps them survive better. And so in the case of our owls, if they're going to hunt at nighttime, they're adapted to be able to see in the dark. They have excellent vision. Another thing about our owls is that when you're looking around, right, you can look around the room. I don't know if you can see my eyes, but you can look around the room without moving your head, right? Owls can't do that. So I have a model of an owl's eye. It's just a wooden model. This is the shape that we have for their eye. Owls can't move their eyes around, and so they have to move their head to look around a room. So Lindsay mentioned that owls can turn their heads around really, really far, but not all the way around in a circle, right? And that's because they have to move their whole head to be able to see what's around them, because they can't just move their eyes around. Another adaptation that our owls have is that they're really, really quiet. So if we're thinking about the things that our owls are eating, like those mice, those small critters that live on the forest floor, owls need to be able to be super quiet to sneak up on those prey and catch them. And that's because they have special feathers. So I have a couple models for us of our feathers. You can see that very well. But here's some owl feathers. And the way the feathers are structured are so that they're really quiet when the owls are flying and landing and taking off. There's some feathers. This is a wing of a great horned owl with its feathers. I think this one is too. And then I'll hold up some separate feathers. So this is a raven feather. And when you feel this, the pieces of the feather or the texture of the feather is almost like thick, kind of like coarse hair. And when you feel the owl feather, it's really, really soft. So that's the difference between these feathers. So this is an owl feather, and this is a raven feather. So those feathers on the owl allow it to be really, really quiet. One last thing I'll show you. Our owls, I have a model of an owl's foot as well. Lindsay tried to get us a good close-up look at our owl's foot when she had him on the glove, but I have a model if you wanted to get another chance to see the talons on this owl's foot. They're extra sharp. They actually have really long legs. You wouldn't know it, but their legs are really long. And they have feathers on their feet as well, just like Lindsay was talking about. But now I thought we'd play a little game. One thing that owls are good at, and Lindsay talked about this for a minute, is that they're really good at camouflaging. Have you heard that word before, camouflage? Meaning that they're blending into their surroundings. So they're kind of, it's like they're hiding. So we're gonna see if you can find the owls in these images. See if we can find those owls. I will show the picture for maybe 10 seconds. See if you can find the owl, and then I'll show you an image with the owl circled. So So let's see. Here's our first one. Give me a thumbs up if you think if you see the owl. Awesome, I'm seeing a thumbs up. Seeing another thumbs up. Ready, in 3, 2, 1. There he is. You all see him there? I circled him. That's our owl, and he's hiding right next to that tree. So you can kind of see where his eyes are. It's kind of crazy how well he's blending in there. Yeah, we have another one. Alrighty, see if you can find the owl in this picture. Give me a thumbs up when you find him. Awesome, seeing lots of thumbs up. Lots of thumbs up. Awesome. Alrighty, in 3, 2, 1. There he is. He's hidden right in there. Nice job. Alrighty, we'll do 2 more. 2 more. Here's another one. Give me a thumbs up when you find him. Awesome, I'm getting some thumbs up. Very cool. Nice, nice job. Alrighty, in 3, 2, 1. There he is. He's blending in with the wood there. Awesome. All right, last one. See if you can find this one. Yeah, thumbs up if you find him. Nice job. Very cool, very cool. All righty, in 3, 2, 1. There he is. Nice job, everyone. All righty, well, we would like to give you all some time to ask some questions if you would like. You can either type them in the chat, and I think that's our option right now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we go. If you would like to ask any questions, we can type them in the chat. Or since there's only what looks like, I think 5 of us, we could even unmute if that's what we're comfortable with, and we can get some questions. Ooh, that's a good question. Do owls have any predators? They absolutely do. So we talked about how our owls are camouflaging up in those trees. When they're camouflaging, there's probably a reason that they want to hide, right? And one of those reasons is that they're hiding from predators. So other birds of prey, like raptors, can hunt owls. So there could be like large eagles, large falcons, or hawks, and other owls will actually hunt for owls. So our great horned owl that we saw today will hunt a different kind of owl called a barred owl. Sounds like barn, but it's barred with a D. Barred owls. Great horned owls will hunt for those. And so they're hiding in those trees to hide from predators and also to hide from their prey so that they can sneak up on them. That's a good question. Let's see. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to share?
How many types of owls are here in Central Oregon?
That is an excellent question. I can attempt to list some owls that we do have here at the museum. But in Central Oregon, that is such a good question. Here at the museum, we have barn owls with an N, those little white owls that you see flying sometimes. We have great horned owls. We have barred owls with the D at the end. We have burrowing owls. We have screech owls. Those ones are always kind of fun because they're very loud. We have the northern pygmy owl, and now I'm going off owls that aren't here at the museum. We don't have a screech owl, and we do not have a northern pygmy owl. We also don't have any eagle owls. I believe the Sun River Nature Center has an eagle owl, and those are awfully big. That's why they're called eagle owls. But yeah, it's kind of crazy because Lindsay mentioned it, but owls can live in a whole range of environments. They can be found, especially our great horned owls, they can be found across the entire United States. They can kind of adapt to a lot of different environments. But we do have a great horned owl and a barn owl on display in an exhibit in our Birds of Prey. And then also, if you attend our Raptors of the Desert Sky, our flight show here at the museum, you can experience having one of those owls fly over your head, and you'll be able to really tell how quiet they are. Ooh, do I have a favorite type of owl? That's an excellent question. My favorite type of owl is a snowy owl, just like the one you might see in Harry Potter. That is my favorite type of owl. But the little burrowing owls come close second because they're very small and very cute. Awesome. Well, I wanted to say, how long do owls live for? That is also a very good question. I was consulting with my colleague on that question. They can live 8 to 10 years. Of course, animals that are in the wild compared to animals that are in captivity, they have different lifespans because in the wild, they're kind of struggling to get to their food sources, to hide from predators. And in captivity, they're safe from predators and they get fed on a regular basis. So our animals in captivity live much longer than our animals in the wild.
So while we're waiting for any more questions, I guess this is a good time to say if you haven't picked up your owl pellet kit at the library, they're still available. So if you want to see all the different types of bones that come out of the owls after they eat. So looks like you may have one.
Yeah,
and then
I can share a little model that we have here at the
Ooh.
museum of our owl pellets too, if anyone wanted a sneak peek.
Ooh.
It's a little sneak peek of what you might find in your owl pellets.
And these are also a couple of the books that are available at the library right now, along with our little owl puppet that I found. So should we do our giveaway?
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
good time.
Okay, so I have you guys on my screen numbered 1 through 4. And I got my random number generator over here. So do we want to give, you can drum on the table to drum up some excitement. Drum, 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 drum. All right. And it would help if clicking actually did what it was supposed to. I don't know what it's doing. There we go. All right. So it looks like Angela, you have won our prize to visit the High Desert Museum. What do you guys think? Yeah. Yay!
Congratulations!
Congrats! So I might ask you to stay a little bit after.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
Thank you all so much. You are all owl experts now. Thank you for being wonderful listeners, having lovely questions, and allowing me to join you today. We hope to see you sometime around the museum, maybe visiting some of our owls and our other birds. And I hope you have a lovely Tuesday.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.